Back on the Young Turks. Now let's turn to the issue of economics and what the latest is in terms of the bailouts and what we're going to do to regulate the banks so that another economic collapse does not happen. First of all, today, Bloomberg is reporting that the Fed will not, as we've known for some time now, reveal the names of the banks that they have loaned money to. They increased the amount of loans that they have in a little over a year from about $1 trillion to $2.14 trillion. And when we ask them, hey, can you tell the public who you lent that money to, they say, no dice. We're going to keep it secret. We can't let you know why these banks or which banks got the money, including some foreign banks, which is, in my opinion, to say the least, outrageous. Now, we're going to talk to an expert on that, see what he thinks. Dean Baker is author of Plunder and Blunder, The Rise and Fall of the Bubble Economy. Dean, welcome back to the Young Turks.
Thanks for having me on.
Really appreciate you being on. First, let's start on this topic here. What is their grounds for the Fed saying, you know what, we lent all this money, over $1 trillion, and we're not going to tell you who we gave it to?
Well, there's two different grounds. Neither of them hold a lot of water. One are what they've said publicly, that this is monetary policy, and they treat this sort of like a religious organization, that they're the high priest and somehow become contaminated if Congress, if the public knew. That's just kind of silly. Now, I will grant them there is a small shred of truth to this, that these were loans made to banks presumably at below market rates, otherwise they'd have borrowed the money in the market. Well, if you had a bank, a Goldman or a Citi, or they were under a lot of stress and they had to run to the Fed to get money, well, if the Fed publicized that they were running to them to get money, then it could encourage a bank run and be counterproductive. So it might have been an argument you don't release the information right away, but after 2 weeks, after a month, after 6 months, they can't. I don't understand that. Now, the other argument they've made to Bloomberg is it takes a different tack. They say, oh, no, the Fed is a private organization. And the Fed has this peculiar public-private status where the Board of Governors, Ben Bernanke, of course, is a presidential appointee approved by Congress, but you have the 12 district Federal Reserve banks. Those are private. So they say, oh, that's a private organization. The law doesn't, the Freedom of Information Act doesn't apply to us. This is just kind of game playing. The banks didn't get the money from the private sector. They got it because it's the nation's central bank. So this is really just, to my mind, dishonest, and it's just, it really, I can't see any rationale for why they're keeping this from the public. It is our money.
Dean, let's talk about many of the things that you mentioned there, because they're all very important. One, where is the money coming from? Where is that extra $1 trillion coming from? Because if they say, hey, it's private, and Ben Bernanke made it on a yacht deal, or he owns a slice of Coca-Cola, I don't know. If it's private, okay, all right, it's your money. It's not my money. But is it our money? Where is it coming from?
It's our money. No, and this is why that's such a nonsense answer. The Fed is able essentially to print as much money as it wants. They aren't literally printing dollar bills, but they're issuing Federal Reserve notes or bookkeeping entries. But they're able to do that in a way that other banks can't because they're the U.S. central bank. So that's why this is just a silly, silly argument. It doesn't matter whether you try and say, oh, it's the District Bank of New York or the District Bank of Kansas City. This is just silly. The reason why they have the money is because they're the central bank of the United States.
And, they say that, look, some of the banks that paid the TARP money back, they said, look, it's none of your business what kind of bonuses I'm getting, even if it's record bonuses. But if we're lending them this money in a secret way through the Fed, well, then isn't it our business? Aren't they using our money at very low cost, if any cost at all, to make more money to that, which then goes to their profits and bonuses?
Absolutely. And just a word about the bonuses issue. They got an incredible, basically all these banks would be out of business. Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, they would have been out of business. There's no doubt about it. They were in a crisis. They would have been out of business had the government not helped them. So when we then say, hey, we're concerned about your bonuses, they're going, oh, no, this is all our own money. We paid that back. No, we saved them in a time of crisis. All those people would be out on the street looking for work with the 15 million other unemployed people right now were it not for the intervention of the government. So this idea that somehow, oh, they don't owe us anything, they paid us back, no, that's really silly. If the government had given me the money they'd given to Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, I'd be an incredibly rich person right now. But I wasn't on the gift list.
Because a lot of people don't understand. There's many different layers to this. One, we gave them the TARP money, okay, and some of that got paid back. That's just flat out giving it to them until they can pay us back. Number two is what the Fed is doing, just letting them borrow money. And if you, like you said, Dean, if you got to borrow money at very little cost, you could turn that money around and make more money, and then say, "Whoa, I didn't take the federal money," but you did in essence, right?
You did, and it's important to understand the timing. So right now the economy's, I won't say it's recovered. The financial markets are more stable. At that time, it was really hard to get money. So if you were fortunate enough to have access to the Fed, so you can get a pipeline into the Fed, and you could just tap them for hundreds of millions or billions, as these banks in fact did, that was worth a fortune to you, because then you could turn around to lend it to someone else who couldn't get the money, and they were willing to pay huge interest. So it wasn't just, sort of this little thing. That was huge. That was a lifeline that allowed them to make a fortune.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's the backdoor payments from AIG, and the list goes on and on. And so then we get to the central question of why is the Fed, and then in conjunction with the Treasury Department, hiding all this stuff? Because this stuff is obvious, but they won't admit it. Now they say, oh, we can't tell you which banks we gave it to because it might hurt them. One, as you said, not anymore. That's ridiculous. And number two, don't we know they all got it? I mean, what's this silly game they're playing?
Well, presumably some got more than others. Some might have gotten better terms than others. But again, I don't know. I mean, this is why we want to see it. We want to know who got what. And on the face of it, I assume there's nothing improper there. Maybe we'll find out otherwise. But I don't offhand have any reason to assume there's anything improper. But that's why you disclose it. And the amounts of money. This is again one of these things that we throw out these big terms, big numbers, and it's hard for people to keep track of. Ordinarily, if we saw that there was, let's envision as the Department of Education, and there was 20 million, that was a black hole. They went through their list of expenditures, and there's 20 million they couldn't tell us anything about. We'd be going, well, what do you do with that? And someone would really be called on the carpet for that. People might lose their jobs. But here we're talking about 20 million. We're talking about 2 trillion. That's 100,000 times as much. I mean, it's just incredible. And they're saying, well, we have no right to know where that went.
We're talking to Dean Baker. He's one of the top progressive economists in the country. He's the co-founder and director of Center for Economic and Policy Research. Dean, I'm going to go farther than you. I think there's clear improper behavior here. The minute we find find out what happened, we see that instantly there was improper behavior. The AIG emails that were recently released, where we find out Tim Geithner's New York Fed stepped in and told AIG, no, you're going to pay people 100 cents on the dollar on those backdoor bailouts, when the market indicated those were worth maybe as low as 20 cents on the dollar. I mean, that's just someone deciding, no, I'm going to hand over a gigantic amount of money, at least $13 billion, take from the taxpayer, and give it to the banks without almost any accountability. That's wrongdoing in and of itself. And secondly, this cover-up, whether you won't tell us where you spent the public's money or where you lent the public's money, is improper in and of itself.
Well, I certainly agree with you on the cover-up. And again, there may well have been improper. I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But, I'm just saying I don't know of improper things that were done. There may well have been. And certainly the AIG, that is a scandal. I mean, just so everyone's really clear about this, Goldman Sachs and other banks had lent money to AIG. AIG's bankrupt. The government steps in, but it's for all practical purposes bankrupt. And the way the market's supposed to work is when you make money to lend money to a bankrupt company, you lose the money. But instead, the government came in and picked up AIG's debts and rewarded Goldman Sachs 100 cents on the dollar. That's a great deal. We should all be so lucky.
So now Goldman Sachs gets that quote unquote lucky, but we can't find out all the details. All these banks that the Fed lent the money to, they get lucky, but we're not allowed to find out the details. Is it also possible that foreign banks got lucky as well? Deutsche Bank, Bank of Scotland, etc. And in which case, who's the Fed really working for?
Well, we do know that they were beneficiaries of the AIG bailout. Now, in terms of the loan facilities, one of the things the Fed did in the midst of the crisis was that they extended swap lines to several foreign central banks, which we don't know whether those were called or not. But here, I think it's well, again, we would want to know whether they were called, whether they were repaid. Swap essentially means that they had the option to, say, get $100 billion or some sum. I'm pulling that out of the air, so I don't know what sums were actually involved. They don't disclose that. But in addition to whether or not they were actually called, the fact was, again, getting back to the time when there was this period of crisis, the fact that some countries, say Mexico, had access to, say, a swap line of $400 billion, that'd be enormously valuable for Mexico. Now, suppose they told Honduras that you don't have access to a line. Well, that's really bad news for Honduras. So this is kind of a foreign policy decision. And, last I looked, the Fed is not supposed to be an agent of foreign policy. Now, maybe they were told by the State Department who you give it to and who you don't, in which case, fine, let the State Department tell us. But this is stuff that should not be done in secret. We should know what's going on.
And in reality, of course, it's not, in my opinion, it doesn't have to do with foreign policy, although, as you make a very good point, it does have foreign policy ramifications. It has to do with the fact that the banks, we lost track of their original argument. The original argument is we have to help the banks because they help the American economy and because they're American banks. But we lost sight of that, and what's in reality happened is that all the multinational banks have captured the United States government, and they're going to milk it for everything they've got. And that's exactly what's happened here, and that leads us to our final point, which is Barack Obama is knee-deep in it to reappoint Ben Bernanke, who continues to keep this secret. Why? I guess Obama wants a secret to, still have faith in Tim Geithner after all these scandals, all these cover-ups, all these errors, and the economy's still not improving, as Geithner said it would. He said we'd give the money to the banks and that would help the American economy, and et cetera, et cetera. Then you got to say the ultimate responsibility, or as the president says, the buck stops there, doesn't it?
Well, I'm certainly not happy with his, this aspect of his economic policy, and Geithner has a lot of questions that he has to answer for, and Bernanke, again, I've said, basically it's hard to imagine how you could have done worse as Fed chair. We're at the edge, we're 10% unemployment, and they keep boasting how he prevented a Great Depression. The only reason why we were even talking about the Great Depression was how badly he had done to begin with. He let the housing bubble, along with Alan Greenspan, grow to such dangerous proportions that its collapse threatened us with a Great Depression. So it's good we didn't get a Great Depression, but on the other hand, no one else got one either, so it wasn't Ben Bernanke's unique brilliance. And we're supposed to be thankful for this, sitting here with 10% unemployment, 2 million foreclosures a year. That's a little hard for me to understand.
He's the one that drove the ship into the iceberg in the first place.
That's right. The analogy I often make, it's like the captain of Titanic asked for a charge of another boat based on the fact of how many people had gotten into lifeboats.
So, you know what, Dean, let me go one step further then, real quick. If they haven't addressed any of this, and tell me if they've addressed the net capital rule, because I was just reading up on, in 2004, the SEC, and I knew this before, but I just read some extra articles on it, basically took off the cap of how much you could leverage and left it to the banks. Is the Obama administration doing anything about that? And if they're not, you add all this stuff up, it doesn't seem like Obama's on our side. It clearly seems from the evidence that he's on the bank side.
Well, he proposed financial reform regulation that would deal with that to some extent. I forget the exact terms on investment banks because we don't have really investment banks as we did previously. But the fact of the matter is Bernanke's still allowing the investment banks, even though they're now officially financial holding companies and in principle subject to much tighter regulation, he's allowing them to continue to operate as investment banks. So I don't think anyone could look at either President Obama's proposals or, the way they've been changed as Congress has dealt with them and feel that we're seeing the financial sector cleaned up. It just doesn't look that way.
All right. Dean Baker from the Center for Economic and Policy Research, and his book is Plunder and Blunder, The Rise and Fall of the Bubble Economy. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for having me on.
All right. We'll be right back. Young Turks.